Imhotep family, this is gonna be a real one. All right, we're gonna talk about the reality. This is this, and it's gonna be very simple. There will be no development in Africa until Africa develops elite universities. I want you all to understand what this means. Now, of course, you can say, well, there are elite universities, right? Well, we're going to talk about that. But before we do, let me remind you that we're part of a podcasting network called KWAZ Radio.
Hello there, dear listener. We hope you're enjoying this lovely discussion. If you're not already aware, this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio, a Pan-African nationalist and Garveyite network committed to showcasing the rich and varied thoughts of African people. We have an exciting lineup of shows that we think you'll enjoy, including
the Bitter Medicine Podcast.
I think black people acquire too much buy-in. Like, we constantly have to sell black people on things that are beneficial to black people.
The Pro-Black Perspective Podcast.
I'm fearful that our people are not really studying how to get ahead, and we're kind of, continually staying behind.
The Harsh Reality Podcast.
To me, it don't matter. I think people are so dumbed down, it wouldn't matter what you reveal to them. They still are in the matrix. They're in the simulation. They're going to keep doing what they did. They lemmings. So to me, it don't matter, man.
The Learning Curve Podcast.
Sexual access has never given you economic empowerment. The only person who has ever been economically empowered by a sexual relationship is the wasp and his woman.
The Cathedra Cheek Show.
When we start rising up to fight for our own, I guarantee you they'll stop doing what they're doing. I guarantee you they would have let their brother go. They was waiting to see what black folks was going to do.
Brother Bakari Podcast.
Black people love to claim folks that hate them, right? They're a slave master, and they are ashamed of who they really are.
The Forecast Radio.
Like, if you pray to the same deity as like your enemy, and that God blesses your enemy more than you may want to reconsider who you praying to,
And Tanzan, African Mind.
Africans generally are welcoming of everyone. Sometimes, to my consternation, I think that they should be less, welcoming.
If you love our podcast network, we would be grateful if you could rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out our website at www.kwazradio.com for more information. Thank you for tuning in. And now, back to the program.
All right, peace. So I was on Instagram, minding my business, and I came across this post, and it reminded me of a quote from Martin Delany. Now, this is why sometimes I want our people to review what our ancestors say, because when you review what our ancestors have said, you start to get a little more insight in how this world operates. And so before I even go into the quote, let me remind you guys what Martin Delany said. Martin Delany said, before I go into the Instagram post, I want to remind you what Martin Delany said. He said, whatever liberty is worth to the whites, it is worth to the blacks. Therefore, whatever it costs the whites to obtain it, the blacks would be willing and ready to pay if they desire it. Okay? I want to read that again. I mean, it's on the screen, but I want to read that again. Whatever liberty is worth to the whites. So whatever freedom costs for the whites, it has the same cost for the blacks. Whatever whites pay for freedom, you have to also pay for the same freedom. He said, whatever it costs the whites to obtain it, the blacks should be willing and ready to pay if they desire it. So if you want to be as advanced or as wealthy or as whatever as these white boys, you have to be able to pay the same that they pay. And sometimes they let you know what they're paying. All right? So this dude, he's some white boy. Apparently, he married a sister, and sister, thick like thick like peanut butter. All right, but so the dude got some good taste. I ain't gonna hold you, but here's what the dude said. He says this school in Switzerland trains the children of billionaires, royals, and future world leaders. Tuition is $200,000 a year. Here's what it teaches that your kid's school never will. Because he already knows he know that you ain't going to this school. He says the Institute auf dem Rosenberg is called the Davos for children. 230 students, 60 nationalities represented. Marble bathrooms, gourmet personalized dining, polo, ski slopes, shooting range. But the 5-star amenities aren't the only reason for the high tuition. Okay? The curriculum is designed to produce the world's elites, diplomacy and leadership, wealth creation and investment, family business, entrepreneurship, biotechnology, applied robotics, over 500 course options across 32 languages. Every single student gets a fully customized learning path. Then there's what no tuition can fully capture. This is really important right here. And I'm going to tell you why. Okay? The kid in the next dorm room might be a future prime minister. The one across the dining hall, heir to $1 billion fortune. By graduation, these students have already built the networks of power that will shape the world. This is a wake-up call to all parents. Okay? And I say this because, I got two boys, right? One of them going to the local school. Okay? One of them going to the local school. The other one going to a nice Islamic school, right? The one going to the local school, I sent him to the local school because he don't know Swahili that well, right? But his classmates might not be all that, okay? The one going to the nice school, our doctor, the one who's supposed to deliver our baby, also goes there. Now again, it's not necessarily the future billionaires, right? But the point is that you can make connections through school. But I wanna keep reading this and just go on to what the important lessons are. So he says normal schools were not designed to produce owners; they were designed to produce workers. And you already know this. I call it the public fool system. You already know. Now you might not be able to pay $200,000 for your kids' tuition, but you can structure their education deliberately. So they don't just learn to follow orders. Here's how. Now this guy's going to tell you some stuff, give them someone to run, a lawn service, a lemonade stand. This is not really that valuable, but what I'm going to say is, I'll read it anyway, just because I know y'all interested, right? And if you want to look at, I think you guys can see the link. Let me just check. Yeah, you can see the link on the top, Instagram, whatever, / DYU if you want to, whatever, right? Or look up this dude's name. But he said if you want a PlayStation, don't buy it for them. Ask them how they'll buy it. Teach them entrepreneurship. Bet. Teach them concept of make their business, assets, liabilities, LLCs, credit responsibly to grow quickly, schools, blah, blah, blah. Teach them sales. Rosenberg School teaches persuasion, negotiation, and communication. Okay? Teach them how to talk to people and sell. Never be broke. That type shit, Show them how to grow and safeguard wealth. Teach your kids assets grow. Boring businesses, real estate, commodities, not parking money and saving accounts. Now, again, I like parking money and saving accounts. I ain't gonna hold you, right? But like he said, there are some boring businesses that can elevate your game. If see me, look, again, this is a complicated situation, all right? Like, for instance, you already know, I'm if you don't know, I'm in Africa. I got some real estate. You see what I'm saying? Technically, I got some real estate in the U.S., right? But I'm not that good at collecting debt. You see what I'm saying? I'm not that good at reading people. I pity, Mr. T, I pity the fool. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm not, real estate's not for me. You see what I'm saying? You end up, I end up not collecting rent. You see what I'm saying? So real estate's not for me. But if you know how to read people, that's the stuff that you got to learn. And I'm telling you, these are things that are taught, how to read people. You see what I'm saying? People who are habitually broke, who I just had some capital, I would, I've learned after a while that ain't it. Those people who are habitually broke and just need a little bit of capital to succeed, that's not true, my guy. Okay? I'm not saying you got to do that for everybody, but it's not true for most people. If they habitually broke, they have bad spending habits 9 times out of 10, and that's okay. That's okay. But anyway, teach them that generational wealth is lost when heirs become consumers versus producers. Yeah, basically this. In fact, if you're mostly a consumer, part of the reason why you be broke is if you're a consumer, like type shit. All right, have them learn a second language. Graduates speaking 2 to 4 languages. Pick one to teach your kid. His son is learning Mandarin. Languages access, blah, blah, blah. And he says, look, I have 83 locations paying me, some good money, passive. You see what I'm saying? So he's obviously, doing his core shit, but, it's all good. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. You know what I mean? It takes money to make money. And like I said, the dude got a thick wife, so, thick black wife. So, I mean, shit, you know what I mean? I mean, like, I get, Anyway, but look, so I like this, right? Now let me show y'all this. Now again, I want to go back to Delaney first, right? Whatever liberty is worth to the whites, it is worth to the blacks. Therefore, whatever it costs the whites to obtain it, the blacks will be willing and ready to pay if they desire it. He is saying, if you, as black people, now I want y'all to understand. In fact, that's what I wanted to go back to. I want y'all to understand. I haven't podcasted in a minute. You already know. Thanks for coming through. That this school in Switzerland, I don't know if he tells the name. Yeah, Rosenberg. This school in Switzerland, right? If the whites did not have this school, right, or any school like it, not this one individual school, but if they didn't have any sort of elite institutions for their youth, they would not be as advanced as they are. You understand? If their kids couldn't go to if their kids just went to your schools, you know what I mean, or the schools that you went to, if those kids just went to the public school system where there's no diplomacy and leadership, where there's no wealth creation, no wealth investment, no family business, no entrepreneurship classes, no biotech, no applied robotics, no AI classes. You remember how it was. You ain't got none of that shit. If their elites only went to the public school system like you, their nations would not be half as advanced. If their elites only made friends with people like you, who, not you, but you know what I mean, like when you was young, how you were as a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, I could tell y'all when I was in junior high school, man, I didn't even have money for school, after school lunch. You know what I'm saying? Like I remember one brother used to just always buy me like an egg and cheese sandwich type shit. You know what I'm saying? Because I had no damn money. You know what I mean? Now if you a well-to-do, wealthy mother, in fact, I remember. In fact, I did meet one wealthy kid in my class, one wealthy white boy. He lived in the rich area. You know what I'm saying? And he was making money by flipping bikes. Okay, he had some entrepreneurship on the side. He was making money by flipping bikes. He would buy a bike that was like, let's say, broken up. Then he would fix it up. Like how you flip houses. You know what I'm saying? He would fix it up, do some real good design type shit. I guess I'm gonna say type shit more often because I don't know if y'all saw, but there's like this AI Harry Potter video that's just hilarious, man. Anyway, but yeah. So and he was like the only boy I knew in the whole school. He was doing some entrepreneurship stuff. So I'm not saying you can't just go to some dumb school and whatever, but like he had like no friends. He had no connections. I mean, he had connections back in his house, because his neighbors were rich. You see what I'm saying? But in the school, he was like, he was just talking to me for whatever reason. I don't even remember the motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I only talked to him 2 times. You know what I mean? But nobody was talking to that guy. And, across the way, while he was describing to me how he's making money selling whatever, some kids ran up in the locker room, because he was in the locker room. Some kids ran up in the locker room and beat up another kid. And when I was asking what's going on, they were like, it's probably some gang initiation. See what I'm saying? So his classmates were getting initiated into gangs, street gangs. I should have showed y'all some other stuff that was going on Instagram recently. Videos of, like random shootings black youth shooting type shit, So it is what it is. But what I'm saying is that if they did not have schools like this, and they just sent their kids to the schools that we went to, where, we got random bursts of gang violence, and we making friends, we making basketball, whatever, right? They would not be as advanced as they are. You understand? And I say that because you are sending your kids to those schools. Or we are collectively as African people sending our kids to these schools. And they're not coming out advanced. Even though I told y'all one of my sons has good school, I'm looking at this list. He's not doing diplomacy and leadership. He's not doing wealth creation and investment. He's not doing family business. He's not doing entrepreneurship. He's not doing biotech. He's not doing applied robotics. In fact, I was looking, the school that he was doing, the only difference between my son's curriculum, one of my son's curriculum and the other one, right, is, only difference is one of them is learning Arabic. You know what I'm saying? One is learning Arabic, one is learning from the Quran. Now, again, the Quran can teach you quite a bit. I'm not saying it can't. It can teach you a little bit of diplomacy, a little bit of wealth creation, a little bit of family business, a little bit of entrepreneurship. Ain't no biotech or applied robotics there. But, it can tell you a little bit of that if you teach it the right way. The same could be said about the Bible, same could be said about, most books, right? But most religions have a basis in, trying to create something, right? But what I'm saying is that you're not going to run into that. It's not something that's really happening in Africa by us. Okay. Now I used to talk to some lady once upon a time. She said she went to she teaches in one of the elite schools in Tanzania, and she was saying, I didn't really listen to the curriculum, but they have their own curriculum. I still don't think it's as advanced as this one, but they have their own curriculum. That's all good, but there's another problem there. So I want to just reiterate the title and expand upon it, what I want to expand, and then I'm going to show you guys a little bit more, right? So he says, there will be no development in Africa until Africa develops elite universities, period. That's the title, right? And there will be no elite universities until you and I lay the foundation. I want you to understand that, okay? You're not going to have those elite universities. Now, you're going to say, look, Africa has elite universities and elite university graduates. So, but this, because Africa already has elite universities that we have not laid the foundation for, Africa develops according to the Western curriculum of European advancement. You understand? See, this school in Sweden, right? This school in Sweden, Devils for Children, whatever that means, right? This is a white power school. Don't let the black face or the Asian face or the Indian face fool you. This is the face that you got to be convinced by. This is the flag that you got to be convinced by. Okay? This is a white power institution going for the advancement of European people. I want you to understand that. You see, every people has a program. Every people has a program, okay, for the advancement of themselves. And if you go to another people, they will tell you how they want to advance. So, of course, this student right here is sitting down and he's like, hey, look, he's connecting with somebody, the European this, the European that, the European, the king of Europe, the prince of Europe, whatever, right? He's connecting with these people. And eventually, when he goes back to wherever he is in Africa, right? When he goes back to wherever he is in Africa, he will find a way to enrich his classmates. You see what I'm saying? To enrich Switzerland, to enrich Europe. He has to. That's his training. See, because even when you say, again, these are all objective. These are all objective, but they're also subjective. Even when you say diplomacy, like look at all these classes, diplomacy and leadership, right? Who are you learning to be diplomatic with? Who is undiplomatic according to how you learn it? Okay? When you talk about wealth creation, how do you create wealth? Wealth is created through sales. Let's put it that way. You know, selling services, selling goods. You know, you can say selling commodities, whatever. Selling whatever, right? It's created through sales. But selling what and where and how? You understand? And if you're in the middle of Switzerland, what economy are you learning to sell to and how? The same with family business, same with entrepreneurship, same with biotech. Biotech requires quite a bit. Let's say we're talking about biotech in the sense of you have a working data set. Which data set are you working on? Whose biology are you working on? And the same with applied robotics. What happens with applied robotics is that, let's say you're doing some robotics, right? The first step to doing robotics, I want to point it out. I'm going to keep it real with you. If you want to do robotics, you need to have some what you call like some tools for microscopic precision. Okay? Microscopic precision. Who's making that? And so if you're not making that, who are you interacting with? Who are you engaging with that's making it? And if you have a nice product or a nice whatever, who are you enriching by paying for their services and making connections and partnerships? You understand? Now again, you have a disadvantage because they already, these people already did the work. We go back to Martin Delaney's quote. They already did the work. Now, if you want to catch up, now there's two ways for you. You as an individual, you can go into their system and work for them, and you can get rich as an individual. But if you're trying to advance, but the group that's going to advance is theirs. And of course it will. That's the whole point. They're not collecting tuition, just to not advance their own people. So now I want to show y'all something else. I want to show y'all this book right here. This is the Carlos A. Cook's reader. Now again, I published it. You can get it from me. Okay? I want to show y'all the most important paragraph in the Carlos A. Cook's reader. Okay? It's this first paragraph of his biography. It says he was born June 23rd, 1913. African parents in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. His parents, James Henry Cooks and Alice Cooks, were from the nearby island of Saint Martin. Okay? As a child, he showed. Now, this is the most important sentence in the whole book. As a child, he showed unusual brightness and was sent to leadership school in the Voodoo Sacré Society by his father and uncle. Okay? In fact, the second most important sentence right here. His father and uncle were among the many St. Martiners to be found among the membership and leadership of Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association in the Dominican Republic. What I'm saying right now is this. Right? As a child, the brother, now this Carlos A. Cooks becomes, I would say, one of the most brilliant men of the 20th century. Okay? I put the three most brilliant men of the 20th century as Marcus Garvey, Julius Nyerere, and Carlos A. Cooks. Okay? And I'm saying that, fully understanding that I'm from the 20th century. but I'm saying these are the three, the triumvirate. The three good brothers. You go read their stuff, you reading some good shit. Okay? You reading some good shit. Okay? You're reading some brilliant men. All right? And I'm saying that to say, this is 100 years ago, over 100 years ago, they said, look at this bright kid. Let's make a future for him. Let's put him into some elite education. And he came out amazing. You understand? Now, I'm not saying that this school had biotech and advanced robotics 100 something years ago. But it created and produced a thinker, and this is what I want to tell you that every people do. So what I'm asking you now, right, is I want you to go and cop this book. Okay? So now you gotta understand I am an author. Okay? I'm an author, and I'm going to tell you the concept that we're talking about, the concept that every people are doing. Okay? Because this that we see is not new. The concept that every people are doing is what I call waset. Okay? Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, okay? Back in Zamani, all right? A long, long time ago, ancient societies. You had a advanced civilization. One of the earliest advanced civilizations, you had ancient Egypt. And it had a city called Waset. Okay, Waset was an educational, was like the center of education. It was the Timbuktu of its day. Okay, a lot of world leaders went to Waset and learned stuff. Okay, some people would even say some of the biblical people went. You know, some of them would say, I think Moses went. You know, because like how Moses learned this shit, right? But you also had the the ancient Greeks, the Plato, the Socrates, them people. But you also had I would reason some of the people in the Yoruba faith, Oludumare or is it Oludumare? I forget the name, but the founder of Yoruba. I would reason, I don't know, but I would reason, because you don't really have a teaching roster from that time, but it's very clear that African people went to Waset. It had, I don't know, it said like 40,000 students type stuff, right? And you see this school, I mean, I guess you guys don't see the screen right now, but you see this Switzerland school has 230 students. So you're talking about a whole city of 40,000 students learning advanced knowledge back in Africa. And so I call this system Waset. And let me tell you what it is. Waset development is the pedagogy and institutionalization of the elite's education. This is why I want you to read this book, because this book is telling you, hey, this is what we're looking for. No people can compete on a modern stage without a substantial number of individuals trained on a tertiary level. The elites are the decision makers. Decision makers should be specialists in the fields in which they are making decisions. It is the decisions of the elites, the national and international actors, which will determine the quality of life, wealth, and health of a nation's citizens. There must be intelligent, wise, and disciplined leadership. No one is born intelligent. No one is born wise. No one is born disciplined, and no one is born a leader. Nothing is more fundamental than a people training their own leadership to be the best they can be. There is no success without deliberate training. Those who fail to plan to fail. Waset, named after the ancient center of higher learning in ancient Kemet, will be where qualifying Africans will study the diverse specialties and connect to become the territorial specialists their nations need them to be. The training specialists need to be dedicated to the respective crafts, but also to Uangalifu. That's the name of the book, by the way, Uangalifu. The nation and the race at large. This requires trained specialists. The system of education can not only be done by specialists in their respective fields, the education in Waset needs to be deeply informative in an economical, political, and cultural way. The military engineer, for instance, must be loyal to his people, otherwise the purpose is lost. Uangalifu, see again, you can't just be a military engineer, make a drone and then go sell it to Ukraine or something. You see what I'm saying? Now, if you sell it to Russia, that's all right. You see what I'm saying? But you gotta be loyal to your advancement. I'll put it that way. Like it says, Uangalifu had to thoroughly understand the purpose of loyalty to Uangalifu. Waset is not just a university, it's a training ground for a prosperous, independent Africa. The Waset development specialists will be dedicated specialists towards making the higher learning experience beneficial for the nation, modern and up to date. Through them, the sky is the limit. Now, again, I want y'all to read that book on your own. And speaking of Russia, I want to show you guys this, right? So, here's where I talk about this. It says, look, there is a limit to what secondary education can accomplish. Again, this is Uangalifu, right? I'll show you guys the title later. There's a limit to what a secondary education can accomplish. Many of the most valuable inventions in the world are the result of advanced scientific and engineering principles. To study these locally is possible, but to study these in a dedicated environment with many other scholarly minds in a territory is the common practice around the world. Again, we go back to the Rosenberg, right? In ancient Africa, Waset meant the city of power, and it was where Ipet Astu, Kemet's Grand Lodge, was located. The practice of universities being seats of power continue even today, where in America, Harvard University and Yale University are seats of power. In the United Kingdom, the University of Oxford and the University of Cambridge. In France, École Normale Supérieure and Sciences Po. In Germany, Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich and Heidelberg University. In Japan, University of Tokyo and Kyoto University. In China, Tsinghua University and Peking University. In India, Indian Institute of Technology and Indian Institute of Science. And in Russia, Lomonosov Moscow State University and St. Petersburg State University, to name a few. As there are many more than two in some of these nations and even select elite secondary schools. We just saw it. These universities importantly connect national elites with one another and infusing them a nationalist ideology. The graduates connect with the decision makers and become decision makers themselves. There are also often long-standing fraternities and sororities in these universities with long records of having significant leaders among their members. A good university advances the nation tremendously. Waset, a university with the Uangalifu ideology, is an instrument for African competitiveness. It's not a question of whether Waset should be established, but how many Waset should be established. You see? And this is let me see, you guys, yeah. This is why I say, look, go get the book. Okay? Let me show y'all the book. Let me show y'all page 1. Right? I say go get the book. Uangalifu, Secure Your Life, Wealth, and Health. Right? Because what's within it is this. You see? Because I decided, look, let me go study all these other people. How did they succeed? I took Martin Delaney's quote seriously. Okay? I took Martin Delaney's quote seriously. And you can get to see the book in the center. I took Martin Delaney's quote seriously. He says, whatever liberty is word to the whites, it is word to the blacks. Therefore, whatever it costs the whites to obtain it, the blacks will be willing and ready to pay if they desire it. And I said, what are they paying? And what they're paying is they're saying, hey, look, we're going to establish good schools for our children. We're going to establish community centers for our children. We're going to establish a body of knowledge, a body of thrift, a body of entrepreneurship, a body of producing, a body of supremacy. And so I said, oh, okay, that's what you're doing? I see. Here, we need to do it too. And I said, how can I make you guys do it? I can't. But I could write a book and tell you what's in it. Tell you what I learned. Okay? And if you desire it, you get the book yourself. All right? Now, I'm over here in Tanzania. I'm in Africa. Been here for a couple of years now. You know, enjoying my life. Have a beautiful wife. Have 2 kids. Doing my shit, right? But what I'm saying is, you know, if we really want our continent to advance, if we really want these people to advance, our people to advance, right? We have to start applying the knowledge and listen to our ancestor, Martin Delaney. But without anything else to say, Shemi Hotep, Uncle Johnson Neb Neb, Amen Ma'at, Dua Netra, Kwaheri.